Hello and welcome to Tutorial 7, the first tutorial most people actually want to watch. Very first thing I'm going to do in this tutorial is decide that it was a terrible idea to make a tutorial specifically on how I made this growl sound washed out. I'll just talk about that when I talk about the growl later. But for now, I'm going to talk about this sound. Specifically, this sound. So, what the hell is this sound? If you read the pattern name, that will give you a big clue. Now, this sound is used very often in a lot of dubstep music. It's a very simple and easily recognizable sound. And what it is just two operators in citrus. Now, you can do this in practically any synth. I just chose citrus. One at a ratio of 1, one at a ratio of 16. Why? Because ratio is pitch, really, and 2, for some reason, is the default in citrus. So 2 is just normal pitch. 1 is half that pitch, 4 is double, 8 is double again. And each time you double it, that's an octave. So 2 is an octave above 1, 4 is an octave above 2, 8 is an octave above 4, etc, etc. So I have 1 to turn it down an octave, and 16 to turn it up. How many? 2, 4, 8, 16, 3 octaves. So these are just two sine waves, 4 octaves apart. And without any effects, it sounds like this. But what really makes this sound is the wave shaper. And that's literally it. For EQ, I don't know what this does. I assume it was intended. I remember what this is. I'll talk about that in a moment. But the wave shaper is just a really, really tight curve that basically distorts the hell out of it. The reason why this shape is because I used to make this sound in massive, and I used to use the sine shaper. And I have no idea if it really is a sine shape in the sine shaper, but I just made a roughly sine shape like this to try and emulate that sound. But I decided, needs more distortion. Bang, bang. Another thing you'll notice about this sound is vibrato. And the way to do that in citrus is a little odd, but you go global pitch here. So you turn on global pitch. And what that does is makes anything here in operator 1 apply to every single other operator. So I went pitch, LFO, and made an LFO like this. So it's basically just an LFO on the pitch. So without it, with it, makes a big difference. And turning on global pitch did that to both these operators without me needing to copy and paste it twice. What else? EQ, just low pass for mixing reasons. And you'll notice that the second EQ is way more complex looking than the first. Look how many more frequencies there are in the second one than the first. That's what distortion does. So I boosted the highs a little bit, cut out all the lows, notched them out. A bit like I did with the piano, in fact. Next is Dimension Expander. This is another free VST from Xfer, I believe, and it's supposed to sound like the Dimension Expander effect from Massive. And I'm pretty certain it's literally exactly the same as this knob in Stereo Enhancer, so I could have just used that, really. But it just delays the left and right channels, makes it sound wider in stereo. And these ambiances, well, the bottom one is just a short amount of reverb. Self-explanatory. And the bottom one is used later. It's a ridiculously long reverb used at the end of the song, just, so that when it stops, it takes a while to, ring out. But that's about it for this sound, apart from this filter. Which literally is this automation clip. And you'll notice every single time this thing plays a note, at the end of the note, it goes down. So it sort of fades out at the end of every single note. Putting the EQ before the distortion makes it sound a bit weird. It has a noticeable effect, so putting it afterwards, before, it just sounds good that way. So that's literally it, just to make the end of the notes sound better, and that's it for that sound. But there's also more basses that play along with it. Which I will do in the next tutorial.